welcome to the final of the Debate Mate Cup. And here it is in all its glory. Much more coveted than a Wimbledon final and much less corrupt than a FIFA Cup. So, I'd like to first introduce the two teams who brilliantly got to the final for this debate. And first, I'd like you to welcome the proposition from Robert Clack. I'm a trustee of Debate Mate, and I'm very, very proud to be a trustee of Debate Mate. It's a fantastic organisation. How many of you here have been debating through the year in the Debate Mate programme? Hand up. Congratulations, you've done a great thing, you've been part of a great programme. We're very, very proud of you. We're particularly proud of the people who debated today. Hands up those of you who are the quarter-finalists today. Very much. A round of applause for them. Motion very close to my heart. This House believes that children should have a legal obligation to support their parents in old age. When you get as old and wrinkly as bald as I am, it's the sort of subject you pay very close attention to. I should be watching the results very closely indeed and taking notes. And today, we're delighted to have several special guests with us. First, please welcome our Chair, former Foreign Secretary, Member of Parliament, David Miliband. If decibels are anything to go by, you must be back in government soon. And our second special guest, leading our judges here in front of me, our judges are most welcome, and leading our judges, our special guest, is Sean Bailey, who is being appointed Big Society Ambassador by the Prime Minister. Sean. Very welcome. But there was a more responsible job even than chairing the judges or chairing the debate. And that job, the most important job in a way of avoiding, is the timekeeper. Please welcome Spencer, our timekeeper. Responsibility lies on those shoulders. Okay, so the usual story, we'll have speeches from both sides, we'll have the results. We'll have a winner of the cup, which I'd better put back where it belongs, in front of our chair. And I'm now delighted to hand over to our chair for the debate, David Miliband.
Thank you. All we need from our audience is passion, excitement, and good behaviour. Because we have got two... Switch off your phones. Take away your megaphones. We've got two fantastic teams, and we've got a very difficult proposition both to advance and to defend. So Robert Clack are going to propose. We've got. I'll introduce each of the four speakers when they get the chance, and the opposition is from St Angela's, and I'll do the same with them. Remember, after three speakers, there's a chance for some floor debate. I'll try and get a balance. And if none of you put up your hands, I shall pick on someone to contribute to the floor debate. Is that me now? There's only one person who hasn't been introduced. I have a charming young assistant here. Please welcome Jessica, who works for Debate Mate, correct? And anything that goes wrong is her fault. So please give her a big round of applause. Remember, it's 5 minutes for each of the first 3 speakers, and then 3 minutes at the end. And in all the thought about what makes for a great speech, one thing you have to remember, it's much more difficult to make a short speech than a long speech. Who was that? It's much more difficult to make a short speech than a long speech. And it's especially difficult to make a short speech if you're a politician who likes talking. So, on that happy note, I'm going to ask the first speaker for Robert Clack, who is Rhys Weaver, to propose the motion. Over to you, Rhys.
Ladies and gentlemen, the proposition presents you a world where your parents, your old, frail parents, are dumped upon the government and the government are forced to look after them. Ladies and gentlemen, we present a world where care can't always be given because of the costs and where a system has been stretched to the pure edges simply because of the amount of old people that we're having to look after without the money that we've been given. We show you a world where old people feel unsafe, where old people feel unconfident in the care homes that they live in at the moment, which is detrimental to their health. We show you a world where there's a multitude of problems with the care system today. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the status quo of the UK today, and this is a country we want to change. We want to provide a better quality of care that can't be given under the status quo that we have today, and that is what the proposition would like to run with today. Now, I'm going to present you 3 problems, three problems that we have with the current status quo, and the rest of my colleagues on my team will present the other multitude of problems that come with the care system today. But first off, we'd like to define the motion. Now, by an elderly person, we believe that this is someone who would need to be in a care home in a system that currently runs in the status quo. So someone who can't necessarily look after themselves. People that already can look after themselves will be allowed to do so. That will be fine. The children will be those of working age, so we know that they can support their parents because they're earning an income. The child will live with the parent either in the parent's house or the child's house in the majority of cases, and the child will be able to acquire benefits or carers to come to the house and help look after the parent, or courses on how to look after their parents so that the best quality of care can be achieved. In the cases where this is impossible, in these extreme cases where the children will not be able to live with the parents, then the parents will be able to stay in a care home and the government will help with the cost to an extent, but the child will have to pay the main amount of cost. Now, when we're presenting a world where the care system is kind of broken, you might think this is a strange idea, but we will show why this is the best idea a bit later on in my speech. The government will also step in other extreme cases, like in the cases where the parents don't actually have children, so these old people will be looked after, and the responsibilities will be shared among siblings if the parents have more than one child. So what is the first problem we have with the current care system today, ladies and gentlemen? And that's the problem that parents are dumped upon the government to look after. So we have a culture in Britain where people don't really take responsibility for those that took responsibility for them in the past. And we want to change British culture, ladies and gentlemen. We want to make British culture a system where people actually take responsibility for their parents and actually take responsibility for their own flesh and blood, ladies and gentlemen. So how will our model solve this problem? Well, we'll see a change in British culture because we see people actually looking after their parents, actually looking after their flesh and blood, actually looking after the people that they should be responsible for. And why will this work, ladies and gentlemen? Well, we see this works in countries like Italy, we see this works in many Islamic cultures, we see this works in Asian cultures, we see this works in African cultures. So this is already a tried and tested method around the world. We already know that this works. So why can't it work in British culture, ladies and gentlemen? That is an idea that we're wanting to push forward today, that British culture should include responsibilities of looking after your parents when they get old, seeing as they took the responsibility to look after you in the past. Now, I'll take your point.
What about children who then have to look after their future children? If they're going to be held the responsibility to look after their parents, then how are they going to be able to give the full satisfactory life that they could provide with their child if they don't have to care?
What we see in Asian cultures and African cultures and in Italy, people with children also are able to look after their parents as well. We see this works in cultures all over the world, so why can't it work in British culture? We believe that British culture is just being ignorant and lazy and are not looking after their old people, and this needs to change, ladies and gentlemen, in our current system today. Now we see in our current system, the second problem is that care can't always be given well. And this is for a number of problems. Sometimes it's for cost, sometimes because there simply isn't enough carers, and sometimes it's just because there isn't a decent amount of care. Now we believe that be providing better care in our system, because we have people that actually understand and love their parents, looking after their parents. So people that understand what makes them tick will be able to help look after their parents with the help and support of the government, because we believe that love is one of the greatest things that will help care for these old people. But those people still in the government system will be able to spend more time with their carers, because the carers will have less people to look after, because more people will be living at home, and there'll be less economic problems as well, because there'll be less people to look after, so there'll be less people to pay for. So that also means that there'll be better care for people living in the government care homes, for those that are suffering in extreme cases where they can't live with their children at home. And also we've got the problem of old people feeling unsafe and unconfident, and their mental state is affected by this. Now we see that because they're living at home with their parents, they feel safe and they feel confident because they're living with someone that they've lived with before in the past, and someone that loves them, so they know that they can feel safe and confident with them. And for those living in the government care homes, they'll have more time to spend with their carers, so will therefore be able to we'll be able to bond with their carers, so we'll feel safer and confident. So we told you a lot of things today, ladies and gentlemen, but I just want to leave you with one thing. Imagine your old, frail parent being left to die alone in a government care home in the system that we have today, because the carer has to look after 30 other people, because they can't simply offer the right amount of care. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to change the status quo and offer better care for your parents and my parents in the future. So we beg you to propose this motion. Thank you.
And the first speaker in opposing the motion is Rihanna Alexander. Rihanna.
Ladies and gentlemen, imagine you're 25, you know, you have your perfect husband and your perfect wife, you've got your kids and everything. Then one day, mummy or daddy decides to come to your doorstep, knock on the door, say, I'm retired, you now have to look after me. No, just no, right? Now, I would just like to, with my example, we all know that no, you're having your own family, you want to look after yourself and your children, so this simply isn't going to work. Now, going on how he said that it works in other countries, why can't it work in Britain? Well, the United Kingdom had this law from 1601 to 1967. They've taken it away. There must be a reason why, and the reason is that for some reason it did not work. Now, if it did not work then, I doubt it would work now. Yeah? He also said how... He also said that, this emotion, how he believes in it. No, thank you. What age are they considered to have to look after their parents? Because if you're 25, I'm quite sure you're going to have to pay for your university debt or other things that you have to pay for. So it's just simply not actually possible. Now, you say how it's going to also decrease the economy. Well, it's not, because then you're going to have to put a section in government in place upon which they have to focus on this section to make sure people are being looked after, which means more jobs, which means they're going to have to pay, and they do get paid more than the average person. No, thank you. And in nowhere did you say... In nowhere did you say that you're actually going to be taking out pensions, so you're still going to be paying, and you said you're also going to pay the children to look after the parents, so there's going to be no decrease in money whatsoever. Matter of fact, there's more likely to be an increase, which is what we don't want. No, thank you. I'd like to go on to my 2 points, which are children will have their children. Is it fair? And the second speaker will be talking about family hate, discrimination to women. Yeah, it's a bit weird, but she'll explain it. The first speaker will be talking about encourages parents not to, it's a disincentive to save, and encourages people to have children. Now, children will have children. It's the cycle, right? When you have a child, yeah, your moral obligation is to look after that child. You brought that child into this world. This isn't a great world, let's admit it. It is your duty to look after that child. Give it food, give it water, make sure it goes to the NHS. No, thank you. To make sure that that child has a good living. Now, if the children has children, that's what your parent had to do for you. How can you expect someone to look after their children and at the same time look after an elderly person? It's too much responsibility upon one person. Take it.
Like we said in this model, in that case, that would be a very extreme case. And then the state would step in.
Huh? I don't understand how it's an extreme case because I'm quite sure people will have children. People would want to have children. That's not an extreme case. Matter of fact, it's going to be the very common case, and upon which it's going to lead people to, what if they can't pay for their families? I mean, I know you said that, but the fact of the matter is, they're going to feel that guilt, and you're going to put guilt upon people, which are going to have guilt upon society, which means the people in society are going to be upset, and we don't want that, because it's a state, no thank you, it's the duty of the state to actually make sure that the people are happy. This isn't going to make them happy, which is bad. Also, is it fair? No thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, now, the fact of the matter is, parents have a moral obligation, right? Yeah, if your father leaves you or your mother leaves you, they can pay child support. But the fact of the matter is that some parents don't do that. And yes, people can go to court. But the fact of the matter is, why is it that a parent who brings a child, conceives a child, put this child into the world, has a moral obligation, yet you find it's okay to give that child, believe it's okay for that child to have a legal obligation. Ladies and gentlemen, this is unfair. That's the basis of this motion. This is the opposition's burden, the fact, the underlying fact that this is unfair upon society, which is why it cannot be put in place, because the whole point of the government is democracy and making the world a fairer place, and if it's unfair, then it doesn't fit into our country's morals, ladies and gentlemen, which is why we cannot have this. So, what am I trying to say to you? What I'm trying to say to you basically is that the children today, guys, as the children in this room, I'm quite sure you don't want to have to look after your parents, because, let's be honest, yeah? You don't want to look after your parents. So what we're saying today is that, ladies and gentlemen, we need to focus on the fact that society needs to be fair, and that means you cannot believe in this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The second speaker, we have some order. The second speaker for the proposition is Katie Allen. Please welcome Katie Allen.
Thank you. My name is Katie, and I'll be talking to you today about how our current system doesn't work, the problems in it, and how our model will fix it. But first, I have to say, you're the first speaker of the opposition doesn't love her parents as much as she could, because if you think, please let me explain. If you think about it, if parents have a moral obligation to look after their children, why shouldn't we repay that? Because if somebody does something for you, you'll repay them. And your parents are one of the closest people to you. So if you repay a friend for doing something for you, why not repay your parents for looking after you for the majority of your life? It's right. On to my first point about how we have no relationship with our parents now. Our relationship with them isn't as good as it could be, because we don't see them once we move out of our parents' house. No, thank you. Once we move out from our parents, we go to university, we go off, then we get married, we have our own family. We just don't have as much time for our parents anymore. We don't see them as much as we should. So our relationship with them suffers, because you go for a visit at the weekend, but then you have to go back home, and you don't get that time to talk to your parents, to have a proper relationship with them. But if under our model, the relationships between families will improve overall, because by having your parents living with you at home, you'll talk to them more often. And then we'll begin to talk to our parents, not because we have to go see them, not because they're family we should go see them, but because we want to talk to them, because we are genuinely interested in them.
But isn't enforcing this upon them, not making them want to, is making them have to?
So if you don't want to reverse, but if we enforce it on them, that they'll begin to accept it, and it introduces the idea, and people will stop thinking it's a forced thing and just think it's the right thing to do. We're introducing a new idea. My second point is how we're losing culture in England because we're missing out on important knowledge that our parents should be giving us because we're not around to hear it because we're out doing other things. Because we don't talk to them, we miss out on the, silly as it sounds, the stories that they're going to tell you, no thank you, and the ideas that they have that really we would benefit from. We just don't get these because we don't speak to our parents. However, if under this model, it would improve society for the better because we're going to learn all these things, we'll understand their ideas, and it spreads respect mostly because we learn from our parents, and it just becomes a cycle because then when we're older and we're being looked after by our children, we pass that on, and it just spreads the knowledge and the wisdom that we have forgotten because we don't speak to our parents. My final point is how at the moment the older people, because we don't speak to them and talk to them, how they're neglected at home. They don't get the best care that they could because the nurses who care for them, as much as we don't want it to happen, but they do have other jobs, and we can't guarantee they'll always be there. As we don't want it, but they can't be with them all the time. There's always going to be someone else they need to talk to first. They're not going to be there every single minute of the day, and it makes the parents miserable in essence, and it lessens the amount of care they get because they feel worse, and there just isn't time for them. But if by having the parents live with the children, there's always going to be someone there, be it the children or their grandchildren. There'll always be someone there for them, and it improves the care overall for the parents. In summary, I've told you how our relationship by using this motion, we will improve relationships with our parents, we'll gain wisdom we don't have, and care will improve overall. So if you care for your family, I beg you to propose.
Thank you, Katie. And the second speaker to oppose the motion is Vanessa Martins. Please welcome her.
Thank God there's a stool. Anyway, let me just begin with some rebuttal from what the second speaker of the proposition has said. Now, she said if we care about our family, then yes, we should go on with this motion. But it's the fact that sometimes our families aren't really nice to us. Now, we live in a really mean world where not everyone's going to be nice to each other. Sometimes your parents sometimes they'd hit you when you're being bad, or they accuse you of bad things. My parents do that. It's not nice. So sometimes some children don't want to look after their families when their family hasn't actually been nice to them from the beginning. Why is that right for them to pay it back if they haven't done, well, besides paying for your food, whatever, they haven't been nice to you. So why should we be nice to them back if they haven't really respected us the same way? It's only right. And also, by us becoming, leaving our parents or going to university and stuff like that, that shows our independence, because that's what we've built up our whole life to be to anyway. We become children, and then, well, we're born as baby children, go on, until you're in university, into that part where you're just now independent, and you have to live life on your own. That's how it works. That's even how animals work. Even the mum kitten has their, the kittens go afterwards, like after a certain amount of time, because they have to live by themselves. Do they see their mother again? No. No, thank you. So it's to become independent, and then when the parents come back again, what is that? So, whole point I went to go to university, you say, bye mum, I don't want to anymore. Joking, being insensitive. But let me just begin with my 2 points which I introduce is family hate and discrimination to women. Now, I have a sister, and she says, oh, I want to live with my parents when I grow old. Now, that's really silly, because no, you're supposed to be independent when you're older, and leave her, she's like 12. Now, with that, say I got on to university, then went to do my own stuff, and then that's my independence, my freedom, because that's what being an adult is about. But then all of a sudden, your parents come back to you. Now, these parents are going to still probably keep their own traditions as they kept you as a child. Going to say, don't go out to parties, or don't go out and do stuff. They're going to be your regular old parents again when you were back like in 15 or something like that. They're going to be acting the same way, probably might not treat you like adults again because you're living with them. You probably have to follow their rules because they're older. So what does that do? That makes you resent your parents. It makes you hate them because it's like, oh, mum don't let me go out to like the pub and stuff and do stuff with like my friends, because she thinks it's not fair, whether it's not safe or something like that, or oh, she won't let me do this or let me do that, because basically they're making you from adults back to children again. That's what's happening. And the whole point that we're becoming independent from our parents, that we get to do what we want. If the consequences happen, that's our fault. But it's because we're adults, and we return to that. No, thank you. So, if it makes sense, it's not fair on us for us to be all of a sudden children again, because our parents have to come back with us. And so, yeah, yes?
We don't think that we become children again. We think it's kind of a role reversal. So we kind of become the parents. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to control your parents when they get older, then vote for the proposition.
Not if your parents are Asian or something, but some families don't work that way. Just pay attention to how some people are different. We're all from different cultures and different races. I'm sure we're not all white, black, Asian here. We're all mixed. So, of course, things are going to go different, and who knows what it's going to end up like. If my parents come live with me, they're probably not going to let me go out and do stuff, which is what I've been building up to do for my whole life, which, isn't fair. So, to my second point, which is discrimination to women. Say, for example, my grandmother, Lola Letty, was, for example, living in a certain area, and then all my aunties and uncles and my mum or something like that are around the place. But then she decides to move somewhere else. Say all the aunties, all the women of all her daughters decide to move over, but the men in the family decide to stay somewhere else. You know why this is the case? It's because us women are very maternal and very compassionate and attached to these people, so we might feel more of the obligation to take care of them. But it's the fact that that's not really fair, really, for us women to be taking care of the parents more than the sons of the family, because it's supposed to be divided up equally. But then again, it won't really work if we try to do it each time or something like that, because it is not fair, is it? Really, because so it basically is not fair, because then the women have to take care of it all the time, and the men are just there doing nothing, watching TV or F1 or something like that. And so it's not right. So, to conclude my points, I've talked about how it's going to cause family hate, you won't get to do what you want, because your parents are going to be taking you over again, making you a child, and also how discrimination to women, and how women will have to be taking care of the role and not the men. Thank you.
Third speaker for the proposition is Kelvin Allen. Please welcome Kelvin Allen.
Mr. Speaker, the opposition has basically conceded all the problems Rees brought out in his first speech. We actually heard no rebuttal or no analysis as to why the three harms that happen in the status quo won't disappear or won't be solved. He told you that the quality of care, because there's so many, the aging population, which I will go on to talk about later, this affects the quality of care because it actually goes down, because the time a nurse spends with each individual pensioner in a care home reduces. And also, they started off in their first speech by saying that in 1601 that this law was put down. I mean, in an age of medicinal, economic and social advantages, why not? Now, the speaker before me said her whole speech was about the resentment of parents. So what if you have tips, right? Reese has already proved to you why this is going to improve care. We have tips with our parents now, right? We don't fundamentally hate them. We still love our parents. And this is going to remain the same in old age. They haven't proved to us why, because you're older, your parents are going to annoy you more, right? It doesn't make any sense. And so, until they disprove the 3 harms that Rees brought out in his speech, the 3 harms that go on in a status quo, the 3 harms the proposition is solving, then I'm afraid you've lost the debate. Before I go on to my substantive case, why not?
Isn't one of the harms the economy right now? And I did say in my speech how it affects the economy. I said it doesn't affect.
Yes, but I think you're ignoring. I think the first speaker, St. Angela's, is ignoring a fact, right? Because now children are being forced to look after their children, there's going to be less elderly people in a care system, which means more money, which Reese didn't get onto, more money can be focused on better things, right? Because now we don't have to pay for all the extra things you would get in a nursing home. We can concentrate the money on the important and fundamental things that these old people need. So my case is, I'm going to be talking about the aging population and how actually our proposition is going to solve the problem now. It's predicted that by 2014 and between 2014 and 2015, the number of elderly is going to double. Now, there's a few problems that go side by side with this, because there's going to be fewer people working to pay taxes into the care for the elderly. There's going to be less contribution into the care system. Now, it's already rubbish now. Imagine what it's going to be like in the future, where there's more old people, there's less people working to pay into the care system. This is going to fundamentally reduce the quality of care, right? Because we see that if people are paying less as tax towards the care of the elderly, because actually only 14% of people actually want to pay taxes towards the care of the elderly. We see that because there's fewer people working to pay into taxes for the care of the elderly, there's going to be a reduction in the quality of care, right? Because if money reduces, there's not going to be as better equipment, nurses aren't going to be better paid, and therefore that means the quality of care reduces. And our solution is better than higher taxes, right? Because under our proposition, the quality of care will increase. Because, like I've said before, the money is going to be focused on areas that matter. Because the government doesn't have to waste money on things in the status quo that they otherwise wouldn't waste money on out of time. The quality of care is going to be increased because the money is going to be better focused. And also we see this because the children are going to subsidize, like Reese has said, the children are going to subsidize some of this cost. And this will also contribute to a greater quality of care. Now, in our proposition case, we brought you 3 harms, right? And they are yet to rebut those points. I've told you about how the aging population and how the fewer people working to pay taxes into the care of the elderly will mean a reduction in care. And I'll be waiting for them to rebut that particular point in my particular analysis. And I've actually told you how, until they prove why these 3 problems in the status quo will change, why the proposition case stands. I beg you to please propose.
Thank you, Calvin. The first speaker under 5 minutes. Congratulations. The third and final opponent of the motion is Mariana Marcellina. Before you welcome her, can you please think of the points you're going to make after she has spoken in the open floor debate? Mariana, over to you.
Guys, the third speaker told us that because we're going to be putting in place this motion, care is care is going to be fundamentally reduced because there's less money, so like people like nurses and stuff won't be able to look after people in care homes and stuff properly. Well, ladies, when these old people go to their children and ask for care, how do we know that these children are going to be, these elderly people are going to be cared for properly? Because nurses and stuff have a proper degree and a proper, like, you know, whole thing in how to look after old people, but like us, children don't. So this is a big hole in the propositions thingy, right? Now, they also said that okay, never mind. Let me introduce you my 2 points. My first point's about how it encourages parents to have more kids and why this is a bad thing. And my second point's about how there's going to be a disincentive to save in society, right? So, my first point. If you know that your kids are going to give you money when you're older, you'll think of having kids as a positive thing, as a much more positive thing now. Because you'll be getting money when you're old and you'll be able to live in their homes and they can look after you and you don't have to do anything, right? No thanks. And now, this means that you're going to be seeing your children as money because they are going to be funding your future life, your old pension and stuff like that, your oldness. Now, no thanks. So, this is bad because you're supposed to see your children as love. You're supposed to love your kids. You're not supposed to see them as bundles of cash because they're not money, they're not objects, they're human beings and they're your kids. You're meant to love them. You're not meant to use them as a way of having a nice pension, having a nice, like, retirement. Thank you very much. Now, this is also creating another baby boom generation. The reason why the proposition I'm trying to put in place this motion is because there was this big baby boom ages ago when in the war and stuff, and people got bored and they had loads of kids, and so this is going to be creating another baby boom, not for the same reasons, but for like money and stuff like that, which is bad, which actually might be even much, much worse. No thanks. Well, isn't this showing, well, obviously this isn't solving the problem because of having too many old people and too little kids. It's actually creating an even bigger problem, ladies and gentlemen, an even bigger problem. So let me talk to you about my second point now. No thanks. My second point's about the disincentive to save. With money coming in from your kids when you're older, you won't, adults and stuff, taken.
Quickly on your point about the reasons why people have children. Actually, it costs quite a lot to have children because it costs quite a lot to raise a child. University fees, paying for food and clothes. Because we think that actually they will factor that into their decision to have a kid, and we think that ultimately they're going to have a kid because they'll love them, not because they want their pension cushioned.
But the truth is, it will become you'll be able, if you put that money stuff into your decision of having kids, your opinion of having kids is going to be much more higher. So let me move on to my second point now. So you have, with money coming in from your kids, when you're older, you'll see it as like, well, if they're going to give me money when I'm older, do I really need to save now to have a good retirement? So really, you'll just be spending recklessly and like you won't really see much point in saving, which is bad because it's influencing the future of like this idea that saving really isn't a good thing, or not a good, it's just like not needed because you're going to get money when you're old by your children and this, no thanks. And And this is going to affect your social life and all this sorts of stuff, which is going to be bad for society in the future, now and yeah. Thank you very much, ladies and gents.
Okay, I'm going to take some contributions from it's called the floor, but in fact it's the audience in the ceiling. Lady in the 5th row, far away. Yep.
Just quickly, I just want to say for you guys there, sorry, I completely forgot. It's a legal thing, so what would be the opposite if a person decides not to go, not to go for let's say, for not to give their parents care, what is going to be the repercussion of that? And also, wait.
Okay, one point, not a speech, 1 point. Thank you. Yes, sir. Over here on the right. Hey. Can't fall asleep.
Okay, my point is what the proposition said. You're going on about what if the parents are bad and things like that. Well, isn't it your moral obligation to love your parents, not to hate them for every little thing? Me and my brother fight and my mum gets me in trouble. I don't hate her for that forever.
Okay, thank you. On this side.
I have something to say to that's opposition, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your second speaker went on a lot about you're losing independence if your parents come to live with you in their old age. Well, personally, I think the roles will be reversed. If my mum comes to live with me, say 56 or whatever age, and I'm going out on a Friday night with my friends and she's going, no, Martha, you have to stay home, I'm going to say, my house, my rules, don't like it, get out.
Thank you. Yeah, young man over there. Far away.
I want to say to the opposition team, to the first speaker, that if your parents can afford to look after you and raise you for a lot of the years of your life, why can't you help to look after them for just a few years of their remaining life?
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Let's hear you. Go on.
The first speaker the opposition, said that you're meant to love and care for your child instead of using them for money, and this is a positive thing, so why wouldn't you let your children return a favour?
All right, I actually agree with the proposition, because don't you think that because parents, they choose to have a child, but we don't really choose to be born to those parents, so don't you think that it shouldn't be the same as we expect them to care for us, that they expect us to care for them? It's not unfair. It's unfair because we didn't choose to be born to those parents.
Thank you. Right at the back in the blue. Yeah, over here though first.
Personally, I have two aunts on either side of my family that actually care for their parents as well as looking after their children. And financially, they're doing fine, and the parents aren't controlling their life. So I don't think your points about independence or financial problems if you have to raise both your parents, if you have to raise your children and care for your parents, are valid.
Thank you. Yeah, in the blue at the back.
Considering that Panorama's already exposed the bad state that the care homes are in, don't you think that if this motion isn't implemented, the care system is only going to get worse?
Yeah, there's a mic behind you. Yeah, there's a mic behind you. Give it to the young lady in the blue and white dress, or top.
Well, personally, I think the proposition turned this into like a combo meal, because they're saying like, have one child and get care for free. So I don't understand how it's going to work like that. So.
Thank you. Yeah, sir. Pass it to the lady behind you and over here. Yeah.
This is at the proposition. You're talking about how you're going to step in financially if things are extreme. And seeing as you're classing the kids already having kids as extreme, you're going to be stepping in a lot. Now, if you've got all this lovely disposable income, why aren't we putting that into the current system instead of impeding the freedom of these young people? Thank you.
Yeah, another one in blue. Can you stand up and give your point?
Hi.
The opposition are saying it should be legalised to take care of your parents, but how will you ensure this is being carried out, like routine checks or what?
Right at the back.
Yeah, so basically, looking at a modern conventional family, we have a married couple and say 2 or 3 kids. So these married couple obviously have 2 parents. So so if they have a pair of parents, that's 4 parents, 2, 3 kids, the married couple in a house, yeah. And that is a conventional family. So how many of those families are in the UK today? And imagine how much money you had to put in, how much money they would have to put in. And I think that would actually be an extreme circumstance, having like 4 extra people living in the house.
Lots of primary school children here. I want someone to think about, before you speak, someone should think, isn't there a legal obligation at the moment when you pay your national insurance contributions? Have a think about that.
I'd like to say something to the proposition. Personally, I would rather pay my parents out of goodwill, my poor parents out of goodwill, rather than by law.
Someone think about their national insurance contributions, yeah.
Well, I agree with the proposition because, like, now and then I have a go at my parents because, like, sometimes I wake up a bit late and I have a go at my mum. But now that, but I agree with the proposition because now that they've said that you should look after your parents, like, even though she's making me late for school, like, I think I should take some care after her as well for all she's done for me and that.
Until you spoke, I thought you were the most mean, materialistic, sort of selfish generation that I'd ever come across. And finally, the voice of humanity has spoken. Right. Yes, madam.
Hi. Yeah, mine is for the proposition. Clearly, if their parent has reaped what they've sown, like put in the effort and love into their child, they wouldn't need a legal obligation to pay their parents back because they know that their child loves and cares for them and will help them.
Okay, last two contributions. Far away.
A nurse usually goes into a care home to help old people. That job will get completely thrown out the window because half the people have got children and those children will end up looking after their parents, so their job won't count anymore.
So last two, and then I'm going to take one from St Angela's. You're St Angela's, aren't you? Yeah, and one more from Robert Clack, and that'll be it.
Hello.
Choose amongst yourselves who it's going to be. Yeah.
I just want to mention that everyone's been talking about whether, the parents of the kids are going to be living with them. No one has clearly defined the support they're given. It could be financial, and it doesn't have to be taking over the job of a nurse.
One more from the St Angela's backbenches.
This is for the proposition. Don't you think it's unfair because certain people can't have children for medical reasons and so they would have to go into crappy healthcare, as you said, the nurses don't look after them properly?
Actually, I'm going to change, hold the microphone, I'm going to change my mind. One from St Angela's who's going to have to say something for the motion, and one from Robert Clack who's going to have to say something against the motion. I want something passionately in favour of the motion. Someone from St Angela's, think of something passionately in favour of the motion. Come on. We've got plenty of time to wait.
You should care for your parents when you're at a certain age because it's morally right. They looked after you for how many years, and so you should repay them with a good favour.
Thank you very much. Well done. You've spoken already. Someone from Robert Clack to say something against the motion. Someone from Robert Clack against the motion.
No.
Something against the motion.
I didn't hear her, so no.
Okay, go on.
What happens if, you're forced to love and care for your parents, but you don't feel like you love them, you're just being forced into it?
Okay, thank you. Now, we have last two speakers from here. So remember, under the rules of debate, mate, it is the opposition who speak first in the last round, and then the last word goes to the proposition, or the proposers. So, we've got two fantastic speakers to finish. That's what it says here. We've got Christine Luriaga to sum up in 3 minutes for the opposition.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to respond to the floor speech. Just one. Basically, you said that your two aunties were able to provide for their children as well as their as well as their parents. I'd just like to point out that not everyone is guaranteed the financial stability that your aunties are fortunately that they fortunately have, and so we can't assume that every single person here who grows up is going to be stable enough to provide for their parents as well as their children, which just shows how it's not really fair to be put that burden upon yourself because it's been legally made to be an obligation towards the child, which is not fair. Now, thank you. I'd like to first of all go on to my points of clash. Now, they will be the difference between legality and morality. Who defines tender loving care? How do we repay our parents? And also economy. Now, in some of those, I will be therefore rebutting the 3 status quo that he preached about that we had not yet knocked down, which I'm pretty sure we actually knocked some of those down. Now, okay, first of all, for the difference between legality and morality. Now, legal obligation to look after your parents is different to moral obligation. Because moral obligation, when you're born, your parents then have the responsibility to look after you. The government's not making them do it. They do it because they created you, so therefore they are then obligated to do it. Now, they can walk out whenever they want, and sometimes parents do walk out, which is really sad, which is why we have benefits for single parents who have to look after their child single-handedly. Now, that just shows that then how is it fair that if my father was then to walk out on me when I was born, he can then walk back into my life whenever he chooses to, because he knows that I'm going to have to look after him when he gets older? How is that fair? Now, who defines tender loving care? Because if you force me to look after, not even just my parent, but something that I'm supposed to love, not necessarily am I going to actually love it and show it tender loving care. I will show it obligatory care. I will show it the basic need that it has to be for it to be called human treatment, right? I don't necessarily have to show them tender loving care, which breaks down your whole point about it increasing better relations between families and also better care. Because I, as a child, as an adult who has to look after my child, I can't then think about how to look after a young person who can't be brought out because they're still very fragile, to an old person who may need a hip replacement. How can I differentiate such hard tasks? Now, moving on to how do we repay our parents? Now, okay, as my parents, what they want from me is to succeed in life. What they want from me is to go to a good university, get good income, and become successful. That is how I repay the 18 years they work hard to bring me up. That is how we do it. Now, also, retirement can start from 60 to 65. Now, some people can live up to 90, especially if they're increasing the care. Then, obviously, the standard of living for other people is going to increase. Therefore, people can live up to 90. And, obviously, that's, 25 years? That's more than the obligatory obligation of the moral obligation of a parent to look after a child. Therefore, shows that if they have to look after us for 18 years, why do we have to look after them for 24, 30, who knows how many more years? There you go. And so, economy. I would just like to point out, he kept on saying how economy will improve. No, it will not, because he just said we're gonna bring in carers into our homes to help us look after our parents. Obviously, you're gonna pay even more. You're gonna have to dig into more of the government savings that could go to better things by having them in the home of the people. Thank you. That's why we, opposition, have won.
And the last speaker for the proposition is Delisa Nishori. She got it wrong, did she? Again. How do you say it? How do you say it right?
Dielza.
The last speaker for the proposition is Delisa Nishori.
I have realised that this debate has come to 2 things. Us as the proposition have been trying to improve the quality of care with people we love, and the other team have tried to keep the status quo and are abusing basically the rights. Now, our team line is we are trying to deliver a quality of care that the status quo cannot give at all. Okay, before I move on to my speech, I'll respond to the rebuttals from the floor and to some of the speakers. Firstly, for the second speaker, You were saying basically how parents don't treat children right at points. Well, this is the time where parent and child can rebuild that bond and spend time with each other. This is for the third speaker. How does a child have the You said, how does the child have the expertise to look after a parent? Reese did say in his moral model that if you are really struggling, there will be carers going into your home to help you look after your parents. Now, the ops still haven't answered the 3 problems that we mentioned, which were culture of the British people, quality of care, and the mental state of old people. They failed to engage with us as the proposition. To the man over there, your parent gave you the privilege to exist here. Can't you simply love that back? So you can't really say, oh, my parents gave birth to me. They should be the ones looking after me. We shouldn't be looking after them. You're acting as if life isn't a privilege. Life is a very, very good privilege that we have. To begin my speech, I'll go on to the points that the opposition hadn't responded to. I'm going to outline the point when we want to change a British culture. If this happens in Islamic cultures and African cultures and it works, so why can't England do this also? I'm more than sure that everybody in this country does want England to be recognised for the excellence in love and care. And as much as we are doing it for parents, we are also doing it for Britain. Just to say again to judges, there wasn't a response to that. Again, I'm going to travel back to when a member of my team said, why should we pay back that love to our parents? Our parents gave us this privilege to exist in this world. Now, the least we can do is spend time with them before they die. I'm sure many of you have heard Daddy's little girl and Mummy's little boy, and you can see there's an immediate bond that should be shared through parent and child. Once again, judges, there was no response. Secondly, I'll dig out the points in which both teams headbutted each other. Firstly, a team member was clear when they said, we want to provide a better quality of care. The response I caught was, Mummy knocks on the door and says, please look after me, and the children are a bit angry. This is wrong because, as cheesy as it may sound, it is hard to break mother and child bond, and I'm sure a majority of you will also agree with this. Now, roughly summarise my team's points. Reese said we want to provide a better quality of care. Katie said, why shouldn't we pay that love back to our parents? And Kelvin said, the love of our parents will remain in old age. Everyone loves their parents, and being cheesy is a good thing. And now, if you want to step into the right direction, please vote proposition.
Thank you very much. Now the tension begins to rise and the judges have to be invited to retreat to their judging room where they're going to dissect the contributions and come to a conclusion. I'm going to go talking here. Good luck, judges. Okay. Can I have your attention, though? Whoa. This is not an occasion for you all to start talking to your neighbour. You've got to listen to me now. I want someone to tell me, does anyone know what this theatre might have been used for in the 18th century? Scientific shows. What else? Anyone do a bit better than that? Dissection. Dissection of what? Of humans. There are pictures outside of here of dissection, the first ever dissections of people. Imagine that. They were pretty savage in the 18th century. Dissections of rats and rabbits as well, but it's rather difficult in the back row to see the innards of the rat. I want to say that I thought both sides did fantastically well tonight, and I think they deserve a massive round of applause. I think we should give a bit of credit to DebateMate, who are a relatively new organisation, but have a real passion for something very, very important, which is that our culture should be about how we communicate with each other, as well as about how we learn from the past. And so when they talk about the fluency with which we're able to speak and communicate, they're talking about a very, very basic skill, almost on the same level as being able to read or write or count. Because it's great to be able to read and write and count, but if you can't actually communicate with your fellow human beings, then you're missing out on something very, very important. And so I think that those of you who are here, some of the funders of DebateMate are here, they should know they're doing something very, very important for, I think, 10,000 now young people have benefited from DebateMate, at least?
Yeah, over 3 years.
Over 3 years, 10,000 young people have had the sort of opportunities that you've seen the finalists showing tonight. So I really want to say on my behalf, as someone who represents a constituency of 36 primary schools and 6 secondary schools and a further education college, the sort of opportunities that you've given to young people who've participated in this, I think, is something that really needs to be part of the curriculum of every school in the country. Because the truth is that every private school in the country has a debating society. But very, very few state schools in the country have a debating society. And we've got to take debating away from the idea it's just for the rich and privileged, and actually communication and debate should be something that every one of us can engage in a way that is respectful, but is also passionate, and that's what I've liked about what I've seen tonight. I tell you, one of the hardest things about a speech is to be able to talk at great volume, but also to get the attention of your audience by speaking quietly as well. And when you speak quietly, people lean forward to listen to what you're saying. And sometimes if you shout at them, they just go away. And I think one of the things that I've been impressed with tonight is the way all of our 8 speakers have used their voice in different ways to try and engage the audience. But there are 2 other parts of your body that you need if you are giving a speech. One is your brain. Someone said to me earlier, what's the most important thing, the important piece of advice about making a good speech? And the most important piece of advice about a good speech is to think before you speak. To actually have some kind of order in your head about what you're going to say before you speak. That is quite difficult when you don't know how long the judges are going to be out there for. That is quite difficult. That is quite difficult. But nonetheless, you must have some idea of quite how you're going to go in your talk. Another hour, yeah? You might be stretching me there. But there's a third thing that's important, because you've got your voice and you've got your brain. But if you want to make a good speech, you've also got to think about how the rest of your body fits together. If you are crouched over your lectern like this, it's very hard to project to the back of the hall, however much you speak into the microphone. So actually holding yourself together in a way that allows you to speak up to the people at the top there, but also allows you to drop your voice so that people are waiting for the next word, is really, really important. So as the 8 of you think about how you're going to go forward with your public speaking, think about your voice and how you project it. Because the truth is, you've got to speak from in your diaphragm. You can't just speak from up in your throat. If you just speak from up in your throat, you're not going to be able to project. You've got to speak from in your diaphragm. Think about what's in your head, and that you've got a logical ordering of the thoughts, but also think how you can use the rest of your body to launch, so that right in the back, where there's a danger that people doze off, they actually get jolted and think that they've got to wake up.
Because I can see that it's hard to tell how long they're going to take outside. I think what would be a really good thing to do is go back to the floor, because I know there were quite a few people with their hands in the air.
There's one other thing about an important speech. That is, you need a very forceful young assistant, as well as a charming young assistant, to very gently say, look, Grandad, you're boring the pants off the audience. Please shut up and let the audience say some things. So, who didn't get a chance? By the way, when I say Grandad, one of the things that I'm doing at the moment is, don't worry, this is worth it. One of the things that I'm doing at the moment is teaching in my old comprehensive school. And when I said the first class was about prime ministers, the power of the prime minister, And when I said to them that I first met Tony Blair and Gordon Brown in 1991, they all chorused, "We weren't even born in 1991." So sometimes I do feel like a bit of a granddad. Now, who didn't get a chance to come in? Yeah, sir, far away. Don't bother with the mic. See if you can make us hear without the microphone. Clear your throat.
What if your parents are divorced and then they remarry other people? Would they have to pay for other people?
Good, okay, point of information. Yeah, sir. Stand up. It's much easier to speak if you stand up, I promise you.
The question of the proposition, the scheme where parents will be cared for by their children would work fine in middle-class communities where people are motivated and able to do this. What about those people who are less affluent?
Good question, yeah.
This is to the proposition. What do you mean by independence? Are you saying that, okay, say I'm 16, I'm going to London, hey mum, I'm going into the world, I hope I never see you again. Is this where England's going?
Yeah.
This is for the proposition. I would like, you haven't touched upon the subject of siblings. Like, I'm the oldest, but it means that I get dumped with my parents.
I'm just going to respond to the proposition that if you're meant to look after your parents all day, every day, what about those who have time-consuming jobs and like work many hours of the day? They can't really get their parents.
Let me just say something to you all. These are really good points. And I think now that the judges are out, I think it's fair to say this. They've got a pretty tough job to propose this motion. I mean, it's a pretty tough motion to propose this. And so I don't want to say they drew the short straw, because sometimes a tough test brings out the best in you. But it's a pretty tough proposition to sell this. So does anyone want to support them or question what the opposition did? Because I can think of many attacks on the proposers, but they need a bit of help here. So yeah, sir.
This is a question for the you said something about the people that we're going to bring in lacking care. Well, Reese, our first speaker over here, told us that there is going to be care, and they're going to be trained, they'll be obligated to care, and it's going to stop them going back to the hellholes that right now we are calling elder homes. And on a finishing note, isn't affection the one thing that stops us from being mere machines?
Right.
To the opposition, surely the sort of, in reference to the schemes of the current health reform bills, shouldn't the sort of measuring of the GPs to the budget of the NHS be sort of applied to the care system as well, because in that way people are able to take more control of their own sort of budget, and therefore they must be affected. And if you don't help the parents and neglect your moral obligation, are you buying the hand that feeds you?
Wow.
Opposition, and I was just saying, you were mentioning all of these cases where parents may take their children for granted and have more children, and it's kind of ridiculous to assume this would happen because we're not in an LEDC where people go popping out children in order to so I was just saying, you can't kind of take away the benefits of the majority just because this may happen, and the business might not.
Puppies, right? You got a kid, get a puppy at Christmas, and what happens? A few years of fun, then it gets old. And you don't really want to be the kid to be around for them when it does eventually. So, what's the most easy? What's the sexy? You send it off to a kennel, where it can develop there peacefully. That, my friends, is dangerously close to the attitude we have towards the elderly in this country. Opposition, what are you going to do?
I think that it's better to I think it's better for us to make their final years, which most of the time, when people do get retired, they don't have a lot of years left. But yeah, sorry. I know you might take that the wrong way, but yeah, I think it's better to make their final years as most comfortable that they can with people that they actually know than to dump them with strangers.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you've had your hand up for ages.
adopted, or I'm an orphan. Who do I give them? Like, it was
Interesting. Who is going to have the last word? The last word, I can't see. I've got to think of a reason. Either the youngest person or the oldest person. Who's the cleverest person? Have you spoken already? Okay, far away. Hey, not just to them. Belt it out. Belt it out.
The opposition have been using a lot of opinions, not facts. So they've been saying, oh, my mum's going to come to me and say, look after me. No, that's opinions. They haven't used facts and they haven't thought about the wider variety of people. They're just thinking about themselves.
The penultimate word, for maybe our youngest attendee, I can't quite see, I'm so old, I can't see that far back. Far away.
Kind of loving thing to look after your grandparents who've got your parents, not to, making it law-minded extreme.
Ooh. So the white smoke has emerged from the judge's kennel. From the judge's kennel. What? All those in favour of the motion after the speeches in favour. Hands up. You four have got to vote for it. Come on. We're going to have a show of hands. Who would vote for the motion? And who would vote against the motion? It was quite close. Now, before the tension becomes overwhelming, the winner of the Debate Mate 2011 World Championship is going to be announced by Mr. Sean Bailey.
Well, evening all. I'm very happy to be here. It's been an absolutely thunderous event. You've been absolutely good. I don't just mean the debaters, I mean the crowd as well. The level of questions you threw at each team was very impressive. The level of attention you gave to the debate was good as well. I should say the corny thing and say you've all done well today, but you know that. The whole point of Debate Mate is to do well in the future. That's what it's about. So remember, this is the beginning of your glorious future. Debate Mate has given you a start. It's lit a match. The touch paper's on. It's up to you to take this forward. It's about generations. What generation are you going to be, a good one or a bad one? That's up to you. But to get back to the action in the room, both the teams were belligerent, I thought. Very hard fought, very hard fought. The judging was difficult. It was very, very close. I just saw you all raise your hands, and you all seem to have the same problem we did. It was the sass of the girls versus the forthright nature of the Clack crew. After a few arm wrestles, I had to clothesline one of the other judges. People's elbow. We've come to a decision. It's very close. It was 5-3. Ooh, that's right. Very close. This year's winners of Debate Mate's World Championship Cup are St. Angela's.
First of all, I'd like to thank both sides for what was a wonderful debate. I think they deserve another round of applause. And as someone who lost a lot of finals at schools debating and at university debating, it is absolutely about taking part and not the winning. Although congratulations to Angela's. And actually you guys are also winners as well because you got to debate in what is an amazing institution. So I'm going to talk about briefly why we came to our decision. And sort of what we felt was that this was a good combination of a team who was well structured, set out at the start what their analysis of the problem was, which was a state which was looking after a lot of people but didn't have the money to support them, and also a culture where looking after your family after you grow up really didn't exist. And we also had a side who believed that it was slightly unfair for people to be forced to this burden, especially if they have kids, but also a team who were very forthright, quite stylistic, and were really engaging with the audience. And that's why I think we felt on a 5-3 decision, the debate was really close. And I think the lesson to take away from that is both styles of debating are important, both having the content, both being clear and structured, but also having the engagement, the style, and the confidence and the clarity to express your arguments. And that's sort of how the judges came to their decision. So hopefully everyone who hasn't been in today's final, who is taking part in the Debate Mate programme, will go on next year and be even better than everyone who was here today, even though these guys were amazing and pretty scary at times. I wouldn't want to debate them, and I'm sure David would hate to debate them in Parliament too. And I'm sure that the quality of debating here is probably higher than in Parliament at the moment. So I still think you're pretty awesome, David. But thank you very much, everyone, and have a good journey home.
Okay, thank you everyone. Before we make our way through to the reception to have a drink and present the trophy to the winners, I'd just like everyone to put their hands together for everyone that spoke on the floor and both of the teams today, please. We know that some of you have to make your way home now, but for those that are staying, if you'd like to make your way through to the Georgian room when you've gathered your things, we're going to have some speeches and we're going to present the trophy. So thank you for coming.